Welcome back, everybody. My name is Dragagon, and this is Gregtech New Horizons. So I left off in the last video trying to figure out what I was going to do next, and between videos I went ahead and I ended up creating my liquid-fueled boiler box, a nice big 5x5x5 iron tank that's now filling with creosote from my coke ovens, so that the coke ovens have a chance to run longer for my solid fuel boiler box. Now, it can't empty all of these guys out. They were all pretty full, which is why you can see that my iron tank has 337 buckets in it so far. So I am slowly letting those drain out. The back ones back here have all drained out, so there's 4 that have drained out. These, I think all 4 of these, yeah, basically all 4 of these and these back 4 have drained out, and it's just slowly catching up to these last 4 here, draining into my tank. My liquid box is slowly getting up to temperature, nearly halfway there. The solid fueled one has a stack and a third as it slowly builds itself up. I do need to actually check on the number of trees I have in here. Let's see, what do I have? I still have 26 stacks of spruce wood. I stopped it for a while because I had completely filled that up, and then it was trying to run, and I had this cargo manager filled up with logs, and the cart running around was also filled with logs. So I went ahead and stopped it so that I wouldn't be wasting diamonds. This stack of saplings here. So my goal today is I want to actually try and build up the materials because I would like to make this guy, the pyrolysis oven. The reason I want to do that is because I believe if we take a look in NEI here, I can go to saplings, and if we take a look at what we can do with saplings, we should be able to find that. Alright, I'm not sure which thing it is to look in, but my understanding was that you can actually put saplings into the pyrolysis oven and you can get some products out. Maybe that would be terrible if spruce saplings didn't let you do that. No, I'm not finding it no matter what I do. So anyway, I'll have to figure out where the recipe for that is, because the text on this thing, I believe it shows that you can do something with the pyrolysis oven just to get rid of all those saplings. I've heard other people talking about it. In any case, my miner has been pulling up a ton of oil sands. According to my map, you can see right here I've got a patch of oil sand here, which means it actually takes up a pretty sizable chunk. I've got my miner just in the center one right now. I think it's just about done mining there. So next I'm going to move it around and basically grab all of these chunks of the oil sands because oil sands are nice for getting heavy oil out of it from a centrifuge. And so that 2 buckets of heavy oil, that can actually do really well going to sulfuric heavy oil. You can see 50 millibuckets of that goes to 125 millibuckets of the sulfuric heavy fuel. And with that, I can combine it with the plain oil that I'm mining from this guy right here in order to make the diesel fuel as soon as I can get an MV mixer. And so I'm looking at retooling this thing. So I've got a couple of goals. I want to make the pyrolysis oven. I want to go in and make the diesel, the basic combustion generator. I'd like to make one of those so that I can start doing a little bit of setup spaced out. Again, I'm not sure if I want to dig out this area or if I want to go with my other idea, which is to start building multiple factories up and down this coastline here, or maybe another thing over on the other side. In any case, I'm looking at trying to do a little bit of function over, or form over function. So a little bit of nicing this area up and starting to look at multiple buildings. There's a YouTuber who does creative builds that I've been watching that does like this high-tech futuristic city, and it does give me some ideas. There's also been a couple of guys in the Discord, one of which has been making use of Z-tone blocks. So if he watches, he knows who he is, but he does a lot of nice building work because he prefers the form over the function, and so makes nice walls and things like that around, you know, giant walls of drawers that have been colored differently and things like that. So I'm kind of taking a little bit of that approach. I don't normally do that. Normally I just do something like this where I slap stuff together, but I would like to get some of these basic combustion generators in order to like power my ore processing, so I can get my ore processing next to a wall where I can then get everything to the component dusts, and then that way I can take it to an electrolyzer and really begin to process the dust down. And then I'm looking at building I'm duplicating some of these machines in order to build a couple of the a couple of different automations, namely the hydrogen-oxygen processing using an electrolyzer, as well as the nitrogen-oxygen from centrifuging compressed air, so that I get those three basic gases and start storing those up. So you might see some changes around the base as especially once I get my combustion generators, just so that I can get those things set up and running around in various places instead of being stuck right next to the steam generation. With the steam generation doubled the way it has, I can now effectively permanently run 4 steam turbines, which would be perfect for running something like, say, the EBF or maybe another line of machines. And then I am considering doubling the number of coke ovens I have in order to double the size of my steam boilers in order to run 9 of these steam engines, and then off of those 9 steam turbines, running a small LV line of sorts with that. So those are a couple of my goals, and we'll just see how far I can get and what I decide to do here in the near future. All right, we are back again. So one of the things I did in between the last couple episodes and forgot to mention, I made my Thermionic Fabricator. That went and opened up our finding appetite, and so I just recently moved my my miner from over by where the oil sands were, and I decided to come over here to the apatite ore that I have marked just a little south of me. So I put my miner there, and I'm currently mining up the apatite and phosphorus and pyrochlor ore so that I can get this one, which will unlock a little bit more. I'm guessing, or I'm hoping, that'll be some of the tubes that will then lead to the forestry farms. In the meantime, I've gotten all the materials I need in order to make the basic combustion generator. There we go. And the basic combustion generator, it'll give me a little bit of some really good stuff, the diesel and the cetane boosted diesel cells there when I collect it. But one thing I was wondering is I was trying to figure out if this would unlock the MV version, but I'm not seeing it, and it may be because it's hiding, I don't know, behind the pump or something along those lines. But there we have the first basic one, so that I can begin looking at moving a little bit away from steam, not a whole lot away, but at least a little bit away from the steam, and having a power source that I can stick someplace else and just bring over cells of fuel and use those, especially with these guys right here, the light fuel cells. I can't make the diesel yet because diesel requires an MV mixer, and I haven't unlocked the MV mixer quest. It may unlock by the course of me trying to make it, but I just haven't gone that far. But in the meantime, the diesel generator, one thing of light fuel will give me 305,000 EU, which is, quite a bit of power from one canister. And they have you make 48 at the start of the previous quest here in the LV age. Right down here, let's see, that's naphtha. They have a light sulfuric acid, and then you turn it into light fuel. And so that light fuel then goes quite a long ways. So having that one, I can, like I say, start making some side progress there. I'm wondering, I might be able to complete this magnesite fuller's earth quest. Let's see. I may already have that stuff. Let me just double check. Magnesite. I may have used it all. Oh, nope, there it is. Magnesite and fuller's earth I have over here. There it is right there. And that should knock out that quest. Oh, and then, oh, right, it wants marble cobblestone, which I have not found marble cobblestone yet. I have done a little bit of exploring, and each of these white spots that I've found here up on the surface, those are quarried stone. So I haven't found the marble. I may need to check this over here, but that may also be the just the quarried stone. So as soon as I find marble, I'll be able to knock this one out. Actually, I'm wondering if maybe marble comes from... No, it doesn't have any kind of list on where it comes from. So working on that slowly as well. But having gotten the basic diesel generator, I would like to make 3 others so that I can begin to have a small setup. And then I also want to focus on making a 2 distilleries, and then what is the other one that I need? 2 distilleries, and then 2... Is it 2? It's not a distillery. 2 chemical reactors, so that I can start putting in some hydrogen gas. And in order to deal with that, I am looking to build another basic centrifuge so that I can do compressed air cans. I need a second compressor to make compressed air cans. Use the centrifuge with that in order to separate nitrogen and oxygen, and then in addition to that, having the basic electrolyzer with water coming into it, being able to make oxygen and hydrogen cells that way, and then finding a reasonable sized tank to store the hydrogen in to make fuel right next to the distilleries, and that way I can kind of get a cycle going, because all of those things, the electrolyzer, outside of needing the water, everything is being produced there, as well as with the compressed air just running with power. So the idea being that I can just have a small setup off to the side that will provide all of the fuel that I need, at least until I can get that MV mixer, and then with the MV mixer making a bunch of diesel, which will produce, which will get me even further. Let's see, the diesel... If I do this and go with this guy, diesel is, 480,000 EU total, as opposed to the 302,000. So it's worth the boost of taking, what is that, five light fuel to 1 heavy fuel and getting more out of it, especially since the heavy fuel only gets you, oops, wrong one. I need to left click it. Oh, I guess you can't burn heavy fuel in a generator. So the heavy fuel can be converted into other things, but as is pretty worthless. So making that into diesel, that just increases my EU capabilities. So those are the next things I'm looking at doing. Hopefully the next time you see me, we'll have a nice combustion generator set up, as well as, like I say, another centrifuge, another compressor, an electrolyzer, all dedicated to making the gases that I can use in the EBF and in an arc furnace and things along those lines. So we'll see you after a while. Alright, I am back, and I decided on a couple of things. The first thing I did decide I wanted to do was I wanted to get the materials together in order to build the arc furnace. So I've got the materials here, with the exception of making a couple more items. I'm going to need my wrench, not my saw, my wrench. And just go ahead and build a couple of these things. The other thing I decided to do was there is a quest under Project Red in order to make these junctions, the routed junction pipes, so that I can start doing some of the Project Red stuff, and those need infused silicon, which are a forming press with red silicon compound, which is a mixer with the silicon and the redstone, which is a forming press with the ball mold and the silicon dust. So I need the forming press first. So I decided I was going to go ahead and make both of those things. So making the two machine hulls, I then wanted to start off with the arc furnace. So arc furnace is all the way over here. There's the arc furnace. So the graphite cell, all that stuff, which I have all of it already prepared. Two of those, and 3 steel pipes. So there is the basic arc furnace with my empty cell back. And then the other thing is to make the former, which again isn't terribly hard. Bam, basic forming press is done. So having both of those things done, the arc furnace, I really wanted the arc furnace because it is a nice easy way to make the annealed copper. I just have to grind it up into copper dust, which I already have a couple of them here, and then put some oxygen in the arc furnace and let her rip and make it that way. The other nice thing that it does is I can grind up a little bit of iron and throw it in there with the oxygen, and it will make the wrought iron straight away, instead of having to use the alloy smelter to make nuggets and then put them in the furnace in order to make the wrought iron nuggets, and then put them in the compressor in order to make the wrought iron ingots before I can stick it in the bender in order to make those casings that I just made. So with those two things made, there's a couple more quests that I have now completed. Yeah, as you can see right there, if I can get to click on it, they want you to make a stack of annealed copper in the furnace. And so that will go a long way. And then I guess it also has some upgrades for it. Oh, I see. Not actual upgrades for it, just wanting you to go from iron ingots to the wrought iron ingots into the steel in an EBF. And it is far less power intensive to go that route than it is to just do it straight from iron to the steel. So yeah, just trying to get a couple of things done so I can get a little bit into the Project Red. The other thing that I've been trying to figure out how I want to deal with is ethylene and the oxygen there, which both of these will then give you the polyethylene, which is a form of rubber and is necessary for getting into some of the higher tier circuits. So I have that on my list to do, but really before I get into the ethylene, I have the multi-block goal of the pyrolysis oven casing. So I'll probably be looking at doing those things. The pyrolysis oven casing is going to be crazy. It's 2 iron and 4 steel around a bronze plated brick, which is a set of bricks surrounded by bronze. So it will take quite a bit of materials in order to get this up and running. It looks like I can throw it into an assembler and make it the easy way that way. Same thing with the oven casing, just a simple way of being able to save having to use tools like the hammers and the wrenches. So those are what I want to look at next, and so we'll see what happens. I did decide kind of on how I wanted to lay out some buildings, so when I return you may find things look a little different than before. We'll see what happens. Alright, I am back for just a little bit. It's been a day or so, and as you can see, I've created this I guess monstrous contraption here. I finally went and made 4 combustion engines to burn light fuel because I don't have the MV mixer to do diesel fuel yet. I went and made a thirsty tank with Thermcraft so that I could feed that into a low voltage fluid tank. That goes into electrolyzer number 1, which produces cells of electrolyzed water that go into electrolyzer number 2 that produces hydrogen and oxygen, because the oxygen very useful for the EBF as well as for what's all the way down there. I then created another compressor and a centrifuge so that I could centrifuge out nitrogen and oxygen. The nitrogen, again, also being useful in the EBF for making aluminum. Then I have my basic distillery, which is set up to distill oil into light fuel, or sulfuric light fuel, pass it over to this chemical reactor, which is set up to take some of the hydrogen cells and sulfuric light fuel and make the light fuel with sulfuric light acid. I swapped this guy around. That fluid tank is so helpful. Again, that was one that I got from my loot dungeon, not from anything else. But I usually stick it in the back and let it pump into the distillery, and then pop it off and stick it in the back and have it draw out the regular light fuel. And then I can break it up. Right here I have a programmed circuit 3, so that light fuel plus steam creates the heavy steam cracked light fuel, or sorry, severely steam cracked light fuel. It pumps it into this distillery, which then is configured to create the ethylene, and then I can, again, using this guy, I pump it out, and then I can use a portable tank and a seared faucet in order to drain 144 fluid in each of these guys, which can then be exported out to this thing and create these cans of molten polyethylene. So that way I can just draw it in, because these guys, it takes 144 millibuckets, not 1,000. And so I didn't want to have stuff sitting in here, primarily because I'm expecting to move this guy. Right now these guys are powered off of these 4 generators, and they're running 4x10 line, which means it's very lossy once I get all the way down here. So I don't expect it to stay here, but I do want to move it at some point. So yeah, there is my setup to get to the polyethylene, along with, like I say, I duplicated a whole bunch of machines, because if I go down here, and you'll notice some bricks all over the place, there's all of my original machines set up. I didn't want to start stealing machines from here. The one exception being around the back. I used to have this guy, where the forming press is, I used to have one of the 2 electrolyzers, but the electrolyzer was literally only doing the oxygen hydrogen electrolyze from this water line, so I went ahead and removed it. This electrolyzer here is the important one that gets me all of my resources from my compound minerals. So if we go up here, or maybe if I go up here, I decided to reconfigure my base, and it's now, and I don't know how that grass plot got there unless it was left by an Enderman. But for now, this is my new base. On the journey map, you can see that it's a nice large white circle, along with this disc extrusion out here. The idea being that I'm going to move these water tanks down here so that they're a little bit easier to reach, making a couple of stairs going down to get under here, and then here at the end I am looking at the possibility of trying to breed some seeds and stick a farm all the way out here. Not sure exactly what I want to do yet. I was looking at either the oil seeds, or messing around with the glowstone seeds, something over here just to help with this. This is kind of like my my Petrochem plant is what this will end up being, and so that's why underneath here I have all the stuff to create the polyethylene, the molten rubber, and start getting a little more efficient in my creation of circuits so that I can start creating more MV machines. It's been quite helpful so far. In particular making the light fuel, at least until I can get that MV furnace made, or sorry, MV mixer made. And you can see I've completed a couple of quests here. I've completed the 2 transfers, mainly because this makes it easier to filter items when I'm trying to get the oxygen into one tank and the hydrogen into another tank. I did the MV energy hatches, although I have not put them onto my EBF yet. And then the next thing is getting ready for the HV tier by making 2 different kinds of stainless steel dust, and then those will go into the MV upgraded. The interesting thing, they have you make the energy hatches to make the stainless steel dust, but not new coils, and that is because if we take a look at, where is it? That's the implosion compressor. Why did I... Oh, that's how to make it. Sorry, meant to right click. The blast furnace here, you can see the heat capacity for making stainless steel is only 1700, so you don't need new coils, but you'll see that the EU usage is all the way up to 480 per tick, which is definitely, since it can take up to, what, 4 amps through there, that is definitely in the MV range for making this stuff. And of course it uses oxygen, which is why I set up this setup here to get lots of oxygen. The hydrogen again goes into the fuel, which keeps these guys running at a surplus, and then the nitrogen, which I can use to make the aluminum, which is what I need for all those MV casings that I'll be getting into. So yeah, a little bit of work done. Hopefully the next time I see you guys, I will have a bit more of the base fleshed out. I've started replacing the floor, as you can see. I'm using these Z-Tones Agon blocks simply because all I have to do is take 3 stacks of cobble, and it makes, what is it, 6 stacks? Maybe it's 8 stacks of this stuff. So you know, it's a pure cobble setup. You just smelt these into stone, cut them in the cutter, and then so you take 1 stack of plain stone, 2 stacks of regular of stone that's been cut in the cutter, which makes 4 stacks of the slabs, and then all those go into an assembler, and it cranks out just a ton of these blocks, which makes it nice for building large amounts in a relatively cheap way. So yeah, hopefully the next time I see you guys, which will be in the next video, I'll have a bit more of this fleshed out. You'll probably see these guys have moved, and the machines downstairs will probably have moved around as well, because I have gotten tired of running downstairs to do one thing, running back upstairs here to do something else, running downstairs to do something else, you know, and so just that constant back and forth. I'm going to start getting all the LV onto a single floor. Primarily the thing I'm looking at is taking all these different materials and creating a nice ore processing line, so that I can start processing all the ores into their relevant dusts, so that I've got boxes of dust instead of boxes of ores that I'm sitting here doing nothing with, and then frustrated when I need more materials and I've got to wait for it to be ground and washed and hammered and all that fun mess. So yeah, that's it for this video. We'll see you next time.